Oh, yo, I gotta get into this. One last question.
Go on.
One last question. Joe Calzaghe, Andre Ward, in our primes. So you feel like you beat me. I feel like I beat you. But walk me through a fight. Why do you feel like your style would have gave me problems? Talk to me.
Okay, listen,
Talk to me. Give me the truth, man. I'm here.
I'm a southpaw. I got a good chin. I'm just awkward fucking fight, man. I give everybody a nightmare, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't have appreciated all the work rate. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to deal with, man. Because it's hard to deal with that.
I tell you what, brother. Let's just say it'd be a draw. We both win, yeah.
Hey, man.
I'm afraid I have not introduced myself. My name is Delave Spry. Very nice to meet you. I have 18 years of martial art experience. I am a boxing coach now, and I love to analyze and configure things in the fight world and people's fight game and whatnot. But today we are going to check out one of these dope interviews by The Art of Ward by Andre Ward. And if nobody knows who Andre Ward is, that is my favorite boxer, period. And it's not necessarily because of his boxing style. I've met him multiple times. My family knows him. My dad knows him. His mother-in-law lives right down the road from my parents' house. We have a boxing academy in the same state as his mother-in-law. So they're always around. And he's also the last male Olympic boxer that has won gold since, I believe, 2006. It's the last time that any male Olympic boxer has won gold, and he's the last person that's done it. Andre Ward is a great he's very articulate, and he is like the man of reason when it comes to the boxing world, as far as getting to know everybody, not having really any beef with anybody, and he's like that good medium that everybody could kind of come to and talk to, like a big brother and or uncle that people trust. And I really respect him and how he kind of lays it out and has the foundation, because he's not just an interviewer. He's a boxer and a man of God at the same time.
Actually,
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know this was it.
yeah, man. So how you doing, buddy? You good?
That's my son.
Oh, nice to meet you, brother. How you doing? How you doing, buddy?
You
All right, guys. How you doing?
You do camp here?
Yeah, I train here, man. Yeah, yes, I do.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I used to see you running in the mountains. Where would you be?
All around this area, yeah. I live like nearby, you know what I mean? So there's hills and everything around here.
I see
so
you in the
probably
mountains,
like
man. I was
11,
watching.
12.
I was watching.
Yeah, good to see you, champ.
Man, I appreciate you doing this, brother. People want to hear from you, man. We don't see a lot of you, man, around the boxing. You stay away on purpose. Well, we'll talk about it on there.
Yeah, man.
But you stay away on purpose?
Yeah,
or?
I think so. I think, you know what, I boxed like 27 years, man. It's like, when I retired, man, it was being a bit of tough time with dad and my mum, and it's like different things. And I've got another 2-year-old now, so.
Wow.
A little Enzo.
Yeah.
Something still works, bro.
Yeah.
My hands are but that works, boys.
Hey, that's something big that isn't really discussed too much.
What's
in
up,
the
y'all?
boxing
Welcome
world.
back to another episode of The Art of Ward. Man, today, the show is going international. We're in Newbridge, Wales, and I'm sitting with a multi-divisional world champion. He retired in 2009, undefeated as the longest reigning super middleweight champion. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest super middleweights of all time. He's the pride of Wales. I want to welcome to the show, Joe Calzaghe.
Greatness.
Hey, so that's probably one of the biggest things is just blood sports in general. Like, sometimes you lose the love for the sport in a way that, like, you don't want to be around it. You don't want to smell it. Anything that reminds you of it, that's happened to me, to where I was just like, I'm done, bro. And I'm just now kind of getting revitalized, just in a different framework of combat sports and not in a sense of a fighter anymore.
Man, brother, you know, our names have been linked, man. Ever since you retired and my career took off, our names have been linked, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Man, I appreciate you, brother. I couldn't come out here and not sit down with you, so I appreciate you agreeing to do this.
Thanks for coming down.
The fans, man, they want to hear from you. You know, so when I posted some pictures of Wales the other day, and I started getting people, "Hey, you there to talk to Joe? You there to talk to Joe?" So I'm happy we're doing this, man.
Me too.
Man, take me back to your childhood. early childhood when you first started boxing. You told a story about your father and how you got into it. So tell me how you got into the sport.
Yeah, a long time ago. So basically, my father, Enzo, bless him, he's Sardinian. He's island off Italy, right? And after the war, Second World War, my grandfather, like a lot of Italians, come over to his place, lived in Bedford in England. And he worked there. And my father was brought up like English. From the age like 4 to 11, 12, he's brought up as if he was English, you know? So when he was about 15, he went back to Sardinia. He didn't want to go. He loved it. He loved it in the UK. He got into me. He was a talented footballer, you know, soccer player. I had music in the family, so my father learned to play the bass from my uncle. And that was it. He learned to play the bass. He loved music. He was gigging. You know, that was the '60s, flower power and everything else, man. So he basically he went around Europe, man. Busking. His story's amazing. He went to Europe, Amsterdam, come back to England, fast forward, come to South Wales, and met my mum. My mum was serving him at the Wimpy. She was like 16, 17. You know, she was young, 16, and they met, and that was that, man. So they got together, and I was born in London, Hammersmith, London. You know, that's the first address. Only for a year. The English like to say, "You were born in London, Joe," but I'm Welsh, well, Italian Welsh. And yeah, sort of moved back to this area, not far. I'll be honest with you. When I was a kid, when I was a young kid, you know, it was tough, man. We grew up in a council estate. You know, it was quite hard. You know, I was born in '72, so it was tough.
And not just to pause it, crazy, but. If you haven't grown up with a father that was your coach in any sport, but I'm talking about boxing, my dad was my coach. And my dad was no joke. Like, he softened up now in a better way, but my dad was raised in South Central LA. He was Special Forces. Anything gritty you could possibly think of is like, that's what it was. Like, insane. So the mentality is different, and then being in a fighting sport, bro, it's oh my gosh, it's different.
In them days, and
I hope somebody felt me.
I'll be honest with you, my first love was football. So you know, he bought me a football, and he bought me this punch ball. He obviously seen something on this punch ball, right? And he said, "You got some talent." So my dad taught me how to box. He never boxed, but he knew how to box because my grandfather taught him. My grandfather used to fight in the Navy. Yeah, man. So he took me to a local boxing gym. It was called Newbridge ABC. It's an old shed.
How far is that from here?
It's literally about 3 kilometers. They had to knock it down in '99 because it was derelict. You know, it was made out of wood and tin. I think there was toilets in the place really that worked. It was these makeshift punch bags, the boxing ring. You know, it just. You had to wipe your feet on the way out of the place, man. It was like, people used to come down and think, how do you train here, man? I think it shows that, you know, if you got talent and ambition and the faith and the desire, man, you could achieve anything. And we showed that in that boxing gym, but.
I know you're probably asking, like, why is there so many cups? I leave cups around the house on accident. Well, I leave cups around, and I was about to throw them away, and I already had a cup when I was coming upstairs, and then I kind of put them all together, and then brought it in here, and I got 4 cups from probably 3 days ago. Anyways, it's all water, so don't worry about it.
Dad took me to the local boxing gym when I was a 9-year-old. The old trainer was called Paul Williams. You know, at the time, now the boxing trainer was Paul Williams, and I remember the first day going in and throwing the double jab left and being this little fearful 9-year-old skinny little kid, you know, with the sound of the bags and the smell of the gym, you know, and you know, I just remember it and a bit sort of wow. And yeah, man, and that was where it started, you know. And I'll be honest with you, it didn't all come natural, man. It wasn't winning titles. Like my first fight as a 10-year-old, and I still remember. I'll tell you a little story. So my first fight as a 10-year-old was against a boss called Chris Stock. And I actually lost my first ever fight as a 10-year-old.
So did I.
Yeah, you really, man.
At 10. Same age, 10 years old. I
lost my first ever fight. I remember crying my eyes out in the ring and on the split decision, and they took me out, you know, my train gone. And that feeling, so my first ever feeling was a defeat and how bad that made me feel. Can I just add to it that his father was also one of the judges, which wasn't fair.
I know what that's like.
and I beat the guy 4 or 5 times afterwards.
So you thought you won?
Yeah, well, let's split this shit. So, well, this father's going to vote, but that's not fair, right? So I lost the split, and that was my first thing when I had about 15, 20 fights, learning as you do when you're a 10-year-old. And now, yeah, the first success in
first
boxing
fight,
was
first
winning my
loss
first
was a
British
split.
national title at the age of 13, 36 kilograms, man,
It's a
junior.
big deal.
36. And I remember winning in the first round against the English champion.
Oh, no
And
gear.
something in me, winning your first title, man, as you probably know yourself, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? This
Powerful
is
feeling.
powerful, man. It's like, because to me, like, that was it for me, to become a fighter, a world champion one day, because that was my dream, and my dream in my head could become a reality because, being national champion at that age and, having a father, my dad Enzo, like my best friend, man, always made me believe, even when people say you're never going to do anything, you're not going to become a champion, to, always believe, you know what I mean?
He always had faith, man. I could always tell that when you guys got to the highest level, like, he never seemed to have doubt. I don't care who you guys got in the ring with, Jeff Lacey's, the Roys, the Bernards, like, he had no doubt.
He didn't have any doubt, and like I said, I got injured, suffered a lot of injuries from like 14, 15. I had 12 months out of the ring when I was, I think, 17. I had a really bad wrist injury. I remember going to the hospital, and they said, you're probably not going to box again. It's a weakness I still have today. It's like I can't push my wrist back. It's always when I fought it, always strapped up really tight. And I just didn't believe it, I had so much faith and belief. And like I said, my father's like, Joe, don't worry about it, you can be cool, you can be all right.
I know your father had he was a musician, and I think he had a studio in the gym before?
Studio, yeah, just next door, yeah.
But he wasn't like a boxing guy, was he?
No, that's the thing. So people say, but that was a musician, right? And but he taught me how to box. Now people say, what he does. I used to spar with him when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? He could box. He would have been a good boxer.
Oh, really?
He would have been a good boxer. That's the thing. And people don't understand that. People think he just watched music and decided to take me to a boxing gym. He taught me how to box before he took me to the boxing gym as a 9-year-old. And Paul Williams was shocked. He said, "Where's your son been boxing before?" I'm like, my dad said, this is his first day in the gym. When he's open class, he went, "Who taught him?" He said, "I taught him." But like I said, my grandfather boxed when he was young, and sort of taught him the base out the box. Although my father never had boxing fights. You know what I mean? He had a good knowledge of boxing and could box. It's not like he just didn't turn up and just... And he learned as he went along, on everything. And I trained Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays as a kid in Newbridge Boxing Gym. But my father would kick my basically and train me every day. I mean, like...
At home?
He was hard on me, man. You know what I mean? It's like, I thank him now. But at the time, I'd rebel, man. It's like any teenager. I want to go with my friends. I want to drink. I want to see girls. But he's like, no, you're training. Rain, sleet or snow. I mean, 3-mile runs, 4-mile runs, like, run up these mountains as a kid. And I thank him because I think that's why I had such a great engine, because from such a young age, man, I was pushed like a professional, even when I was a young kid.
Man, I've talked about that before, how I had to give up a childhood to be a champion. I don't know if it's another way. Like, I don't know if you can do both and still be great.
No.
But...
Stop it right there. Could you, that'll probably be the question of the whole video is, could you have a childhood, like a sense in just being a kid and still be a champion? I feel like it's really cut and dry. I believe you can't. I feel like you can't. There's no way, because there's so much that outweighs the level of competition that you're going against compared to just being like, oh, I'm gonna just have fun and take a break. And especially in the boxing world, I don't know too much about like the wrestling ranks, but I know it's very strenuous. But me as a boxer, knowing Golden Gloves, Nationals, trying to get to Olympic trials, all that kind of stuff is like, there's people that are day in, day out, all day, all night, and this is all they got. Like fighting is their way out. So for you to think that you would have, I'm gonna take a day off, that even rest day has to be so meticulous to rest and recovery, like your break isn't even your break. You can't juggle both. You have to do one. There's no way.
How was that? Like tell me a little bit more about giving up that childhood and realizing, man, I'm different than my friends.
Yeah, it was tough. You know, I'll be honest with you. If I look back, like I went to this school, and it was outside sort of the area. You know, my mum thought this school would be a better school, and I struggled, man. You know, I was getting bullied. You know what I mean? I was getting like name calling, bullied. I was different, and it's crazy. Like boxing was for me my escapism. I felt self-worth when I was in the boxing ring. I felt like otherwise, you know what I mean? It's like I was winning, I was beating people in the ring, I winning fights and going to school and sort of like avoiding this class because, you know, you're a kid, man. I was sensitive, man. Yeah. I'm a sensitive person, you know what I mean? So that sort of helped me later on in life with dealing with bullies, you know what I mean? In boxing, it toughens you up. And yeah, but there was times like where me and Dad would sit down and we'd speak for ages, and I'd say, I'm not going to box, I've had enough, you know, I want to do other things. And it was tough. And like you said, you basically give up your childhood. You know, my childhood was training. My childhood was, you know, fighting for titles and when you're going to box next. And
that's our whole life, when you're fighting again,
Right.
Yeah. And I was so driven. I remember, like, I didn't turn up for half my exams because I was in the national championships. And so I didn't turn up for half of them because my mind was like, I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a champion one day, so I don't need to do exams.
Oh my God.
I always remember sitting down with a careers teacher like yourself. So they, you know, at the end of when you're 15, like, you sit down and go, so what are you going to do when you leave school? And I'm like,
I kid you not, dog, because I wanted to be an Olympic champion. I dislocated both my shoulders, not at the same time, but getting ready for an Olympic trial. Dislocated with my right shoulder, and then had to wait 4 years, and again with my left. But long story short, oh my gosh, like I would not. It was either after sophomore year in high school or junior year of high school where all my grades just fell, like, completely. I was just like, I'm going to Olympics, bro. And even if that, I'm gonna be pro. Like, I'm gonna be a pro boxer. I don't care about this school stuff. Whatever.
I'm gonna be a world champion. And she actually laughed at me, man. She went, no, seriously, Joe, what job are you gonna do? And he's going, I'm gonna be a world champion. But in myself, I was so focused and frankly, my dad made me believe. He never once said, you're not gonna do this. Always made me believe that was the end goal. So yeah, you know, it was tough times, but yeah, I would turn anything back.
So you're progressing as an amateur. Were you on the national team?
Well, that's it. The thing is, when it comes to Wales, that was probably a handicap to me. I was a national champion. I won for 3 consecutive ABAs. I had a year out the ring. Then I was in the nationals, the seniors. I won the welterweights and the welterweight division. And then I was in the light middleweights, and I was supposed to be selected for the Olympics in Barcelona '92. And I was the only Welsh fighter that was a national champion. And I still remember this, you know, they done the selection for the qualifying tournament. So you have Wales, England, Scotland champions qualify for GB to fight Olympics. I was going to the squads training for the Olympic squad training, and we were from this little gym, and in Cardiff, which is the capital city, were selecting. They selected a fighter that I would just play with my hands behind my back. You know, there's nothing against the guy, but I think it's Matthew Turner's name was, but they selected him instead. And I remember...
It's crazy you still know the name. Them scars, you don't forget that stuff, man. You still know the name.
So Robin Reed was going to fight for England, exactly. So, but this is the only time I saw my dad remember my father crying when it came to boxing. Listen, we emotional people, man. We shed tears, man, you know. But when it's come to boxing, he had to sit me down and say, "You're not selected." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm a British champion.
I'm better than him. Yeah.
I'm the national champion. I can select this guy. He's a different level. They're not selecting you because we were from a little gym in Newbridge, you know, and this guy was from Cardiff. Obviously, they were from Cardiff, and they selected him to the qualifying tournament. So then he goes on and gets a bronze medal in the Olympics, and I have to sit at home thinking I should be there. Maybe, maybe I would win a gold or definitely a medal. Because
you believe that? You feel like your style was fit for Olympic boxing at that time?
I was winning all the national titles. I was winning all the national titles. So I was sparring with Robin Reed, and he got a bronze, and I was handling him in sparring, no problem, in Olympic squad training. So I think, well, if you got a bronze, who knows? But I think I'll have the chance, and just the experience of going to the Olympics. You should know about it.
Give me the shot. Give me the opportunity. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, But I always look at it and think, do I turn professional? And my dad said, he looked at the history books, he went, nobody's won 3 consecutive national titles at 3 different weights. So welterweight, light middleweight, which I stopped everybody. I beat, bless him, he's passed away now, Dean Francis, who was European champion. Glenn Catley became WBC champion. I stopped him. I stopped everybody inside the distance. And I went to middleweight and I stopped everybody inside the distance. I went the distance once against a fighter called Darren Dorrington, but I gave him like 3 or 4 standing counts before I turned pro. And then I decided then, in '93, let's turn professional.
Well, you did turn professional, and just after 4 years, you find yourself in your first world title fight against Chris Eubank. Walk me through that fight.
Yeah, so if I just take you back a little bit, so the WBO champion at the time was a fighter called Steve Collins.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Steve Collins was the champion, and we had the same promoter, Frank Warren. So
Scottish?
Irish. Yeah, Steve Collins, Irish fighter, good fighter, and I was prepared for Steve Collins. I figured, his style was made for me because he was very come forward. I like the southpaw, I like the counter punch, like they throw that feint, his own counter punch. So then he decided to pull out the fight with like 10 days to go with a few different reasons, but he didn't want to fight, Chris Eubank was making his comeback after being out the ring, and he was coming on the card. So if I'm honest with you, I was quite nervous in that fight because, I was watching Eubank, and you seen with Michael Watson, man, he's unpredictable, dangerous fighter. Strong, unpredictable, that he doesn't come forward. I don't like fighters, I like fighters to come to me. I get a bit impatient, especially them days. But I think I was 21-0. I knocked 20 out. This is before my hands really packed in, and I was inexperienced. Inexperienced, man, and I thought I could knock everybody out. I remember the press conference in London, and I was just cocky and brash, man. He said, "So how are you gonna do? I'm gonna knock him out. I'm gonna knock him out," and then.
What did he say? Because he didn't mince words either.
He looked at me, I'm going to take you to a place, man. I'm going to take you to the trenches. And then come the fight night, first round, first left hook I threw, and he lands on his back. And I'm thinking, it's trenches, what trenches? He gets up and go, man. He gives me the by far the toughest fight I ever had. Because I was exhausted after 6-7 rounds because I didn't know how to pace myself. So I'm fighting against a fighter that's had 20
Imagine a 21-0 or 21-0, 20 knockouts, someone that's won consecutive national champions, pro boxer, well renowned, and tells you he wasn't experienced. The general public just wouldn't understand. Just would not understand the magnitude of how oh my gosh, of how much knowledge you now know present time to what you didn't know and what you thought you knew back then. Crazy
fights. I've knocked everybody out, nearly everybody out in the first maybe 2 or 3 rounds, so I didn't know. I had to learn on the job, so I had to dig deep, and like I said, it was amazing, to win the world title with my father Enzo in my corner, bless him, man. So and I knew, and it was a
powerful feeling, man. You get that monkey off your back when you get that first title.
Yeah,
it's like I felt I couldn't do it, but I just proved that I can do it to the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And take you to another level. That belt that you won, you held that belt hostage, man. You held it hostage for 10 years, 21 title defenses, and you're getting all these defenses, you're building a name locally, and people are knowing who you are in the United States, but it's hard for you to secure that matchup. Was it just guys didn't want to fight, or just wasn't a lot of guys? And I'm saying before Lacey.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it was frustrating for me because I think I beat 6 former world champions when they just lost. everything to lose, nothing to gain. And, you know, that you blame, you know, the promoter. My promoter was basically my manager.
Who promoted you?
Frank Warren.
Okay, Frank Warren, yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's difficult. I'm asking for a unification fight straight from winning the title. I beat Robin Reed, Richie Woodall, Charles Brewer, Byron Mitchell. They just lost on dubious decisions to Sven Ocken, who's the IBF champion. You couldn't beat the guy. You have to knock it out 5 times, he's still going to win. And then a few months later, I'm fighting the guy. So I'm frustrated. I'll be honest with you, I was really frustrated. I felt I wasn't going to get the recognition. I felt like, I wanted a unification fight, man. You know what I mean? And
like you were hungry for it. It wasn't
no, exactly, bro. I was hungry for him. I wanted the unification fight, and it wasn't until I hurt my hand. I think I broke my hand in the 4th round against a fight called Evan Shear, which I fractured my. See it there, man. I fractured that. Yeah, I fractured that worst injury in the ring, and I had to fight with one hand for 8 rounds, and the fight was made with Jeff Lacey, but luckily for me, how God works, how basically I had to fight really bad, and he was the best, apparently the biggest thing coming through.
A lot of height,
with the
power.
Showtime. He was bashing, with Showtime, and I was the opponent for them, but I had other plans, and my father had other plans. So that was what I needed, is finally, after 9 years, 33 years of age, 9 years of world champ, finally getting a big fight against, American world champion, from the US. And
what did you think about him when you really sat down and watched Jeff Lacey before you fought him?
Yeah, well, I watched him beat Robin Reed, and I thought myself, I struggled with Robin Reed. I think I wasn't 100%, but I thought, he was bashing him up and dropping him. But I'll be honest with you, I'll take you to the story. So 90% of all the press in America and UK said I was going to lose that fight. 90%.
I remember that.
90%, yeah, 90%. And I'm thinking, but my dad's great expert on fight. He knew my style. My father knew my style. And he knew fighters that I wouldn't look great against. But he knew fighters that were made for me. And I remember...
Styles make fights, man.
I injured my hand like 10 days before the fight.
Oh, man, come on.
I went to London. I went to Harley Street in London. They gave me a cortisone and said, Joe, you have to rest. You can't fight this fight. I remember coming home on the train and telling my dad, and he don't cut no corners, man. He says it is, and he was there, I'm going to say all the swear words, but think of Joe Pesci, Goodfellas. Like, listen, man.
He was for you fighting or not? He wanted you to or did not? He said, we got to do it.
Of course he did. What?
Big chicken, you need to fight this fight. I'm like, Dad, I'm injured. It's what the doctors say. So anyway, I remember coming in this very ring, and bless my dad, he was in that ring right there, man. And I remember coming in, he was on his own, and we had a really heart-to-heart chat. I said, Dad, he said, listen, forget this. Forget what all these experts think, so-called experts say. I'm telling you now, son. And he basically said exactly how the fight was going to play out. So the guy never boxed. All these experts, forget all these experts. I'm telling you now, son. He said, from the first bell to the last bell, you're going to dominate this guy. And he said something really simple. He said, listen, man, forget what he's saying. This guy, he moves about 5 times and throws 1 punch. He said, you throw 5 punches and move once. He said, do the maths. But he said, at the end of the day, he said, listen, son, no matter what, I'm proud of you, but you have to fight this fight. And something clicked in my head when he said that, I want to just be there for my dad, It's like, I'm proud of you no matter what, but you have to fight this fight. And then we just went ahead, and then the rest is history. Man, I went out and did what you said.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. Man, you ruined Jeff Lacey, and that's no disrespect to him, but that's how dangerous the sport is. Like, you could one night, and you can never be the same. Yeah. And the aura that he had, the fear factor, that stuff was crushed that night. The Manchester Arena, 12,000 plus fans, and it's in the wee hours of the morning, right? Yeah, or at least it was in the States. No, it's 3 a.m. for you guys.
Yeah, for us.
So I remember watching that fight, and man, you just took it to another gear. So even though you hadn't had that marquee fight yet, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, he's got the gears. Yeah. Did you feel like you were clicking from the very beginning?
I just felt, man, yeah, 100%. I mean, the training camp, even though I injured my hand, I mean, you see the hills and the mountains around here, the hills, I've done the same since I was a kid, and I timed myself, certain 5K, 6Ks, and I was running at 2 a.m. in the morning. I'd have my Enzo, my dad would be behind me in the car, and I'd be pounding in the freezing cold. And I was taking minutes off my time, and in the gym I felt great. So to me, it's like there was an option losing. I know they've heard this before. It was like willing to die in the ring. I mean, they'd have to carry me out the ring. It meant so much because
you really felt that.
Oh, more than ever. I was so tuned into that fight that they'd have to carry me out the ring, because my whole career, to me, was defined on that night. Because all the doubts that I told him he wasn't that good. To me, that was to show the world, not just only UK, but the States, which I felt was a massive deal for me to show worldwide what I could do. And I was just willing for everything. I had so much, it's hard to explain. It's a surreal moment where I went in that ring, and from the first second to the last bell, even though I threw so many punches, like I'd done 15, 16 rounds, I would just, I'd probably say that was the peak of that, of, how my skills that night, and my fitness, and just the focus as well.
Man, those kind of nights, when you think back about the sport, those are the nights that you miss. Like, man, if I could just feel that one more time. If I could just have a moment where the danger is just right, the moment is just right, and I have to rise, and I rise like that. Can I just get that one more time? That's the things you think about.
Yo, okay, so even about that feeling, you wonder why, like, so many fighters that don't fight anymore or retired or something, like they either go on this crazy binge. Mine's was motorcycles and girls. Some have better avenues like business and whatever. Some get into drugs, partying, whatever. But it's crazy because you're like trying to chase that feeling that you can't get anywhere else besides fighting. Like, it's a fear factor. Kind of, if you rode any motorcycles before, there's a fear factor to it, to where it's like right on the edge of like you doing too much. And that's crazy that I said that, because, man, oh my gosh.
What was surprising to me in that fight, though, was like, you
It's a
didn't
drug.
run. Whose strategy was that for you to kind of press him and hold your ground?
Well, that's the thing. Do you know what? It's the thing is, with my style, I can adapt in the fight, and I just go with the flow. I don't make a plan before I go in the fight.
You don't have a game plan?
I don't really, I go with it because I can go forward, I can go back, I can box, I can fight. But obviously, to me, it was obviously stay on the outside.
Fundamental
and if he loads up, just throw my fast combinations and move. And as the fight happened, and I see him coming forward to load up, it was easy for me to spin off him. And I watch him like a matador and a bull. Like, whoa, come out there, and he throw the combos. I mean, I was having fun. I was enjoying myself. And
When did you know that you had him? Like, oh, he can't deal with me.
I'm from the first round, man. Yeah, even before I got in the ring, you know what? It's like, as you know yourself, you know what I mean? They say, obviously, mind games and all that. I'm not mind games, but eyes never lie, man. I say, the eyes never lie, I remember going up 3 or 4 days before the fight, and it was snowing. I loved the snow, man. I thought, this is it, man. And the pressure was off me. I don't know what it was, It was something amazing I can't explain, right? It's beautiful. And then I went up to Manchester, and then you do the press sessions and the biggest fight, and I'm relaxed, I'm talking, I'm having fun.
I remember that.
They were saying, like, is Joe okay? To my dad, he's great, man. He's his biggest fight of his life, and he seems relaxed. And you got Lacey in there, really tense, didn't want to speak. Do you know what I mean? So he was, all of a sudden, is the mindset coming into a fight where you think you're gonna have it easy. All of a sudden you realize, listen, man, you've come in the wrong place here, bro. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm seriously I want to win this fight, So, yeah, and sort of, yeah, it was like, what can I say? It's I just felt really confident. I think the press conference, his body language, what I mean.
He seemed almost like sleepy. Like that's weird. Like when you get hit with big pressure, and you know this, if you don't respond well and like rise above the pressure, it's almost like it just takes your energy. You'll just look like, man, you'll be a spectator to your own event. You won't rise, and that's how he looked at it. Now, I remember seeing it. Like, it was almost like he's there, but he wasn't there. And then him, that crowd will zap you too. These crowds over here, they're different, man. They're different. The pressure of that, 2, 3 in the morning, he had to deal with that, and then he's seeing your energy like he's not afraid.
No, exactly. That's the thing,
What I've noticed in the Ricky Hatton era is, like, when Ricky Hatton was anywhere, it did not matter. He could be fighting in Timbuktu grocery store or somewhere. You gonna hear that chant, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, Don't copyright me, YouTube. But you'll hear that, and then there's like another one or two other chants, I believe. It's like, bro, and it be erupting like insane, bro.
Afraid, and like you said, when you look in the eyes, you can see the confidence. You know what I mean? And now you feel like you're there to win.
I can only imagine. Oh my gosh.
And that was it. You know, and I think from the first round, I remember saying, I mean, it was 2 or 3 rounds. He caught me with a good shot in the first round. I was kind of excited, and he caught me, and it didn't hit me, but his biggest punch, boom. And my dad said, like, hey, he's talking to me. I said, you know, you can't hit for, or something. I don't know what he said. Something like, you can't hit for really? And everything he sort of hit me is like a shield on, like, just come off me. And even he did catch me, but like you said, man, it was just, I was enjoying it.
You feel any of his power that night?
I was like, bullet that night, man. It was like, nah, that's, man, this is, it's hard to explain.
After that fight, did you and Pops feel like you were getting the respect that you deserved after dismantling a guy that everybody was high on?
Yeah, I think so. I think that to perform at your best, as you know yourself, man, you always want a perfectionist. Sometimes styles and you're getting injured in fights, you can't perform at the best you want to perform. A win is essential. But then I used to be my worst critic. I'd look at the fight, I didn't fight very good. You want to win, but then you want to fight well. You want to look good. So to me, I was like, finally, I'd done a performance, on the biggest stage that I've done so far, and I felt like finally just getting the recognition. So then I'm looking at the other champions. I'm looking at the unification fights. As you know, with boxing, it's not that easy. It's all about, you got to fight this guy. And I fought a fight that you fought, Sakio Bika, a tough guy, ungainly guy, horrible fight. You're going to get an opponent that look good against. He's not going to look good against
Nobody wants to fight Bika.
Yeah, he come in, I never saw the guy box.
Boy's a titan, bro.
Oh, really? You never seen him? Oh, man.
He come in late. And this guy, I'm looking at this guy thinking, HB, and I remember sitting with I think Jim Lanley said, Joe, can I ask you a question? Why are you fighting Sakio Bika? I said, I don't know, ask my promoter I'm fighting him. I said, and they go in, have you seen this guy fight? I said, not really. I've seen like 2 rounds. So I never used to watch. And then the only time I've ever been cut in my life, I had a head cut across the head clash, and it was horrible fight.
And he's physically strong, so all the rough stuff is even harder to deal with.
Yes.
And if he catches you with a big shot, he might hurt you.
Yes.
And then if you beat him, it's like, oh, you just beat Bika.
Yeah, exactly. But he's he went on to win the world title years later. But
solid.
He's not a good.
Just not a good.
He's a tough guy. Yeah.
When I saw I was fighting, I was like, ah, man. You just know what type of night it's gonna be, man. You just know what type of night it's gonna be. If I'm not mistaken, you stayed home. You stayed in this gym for every training camp.
Yeah.
Like you stayed around your kids. Even how'd you do that?
That's why it was comfortable. I preferred it. I just like being at home. There's only one time I've ever been to training camp, and that was when I was suffering injuries in 98, 99. I had a really bad elbow injury. I couldn't spar for 2 years, and I had about 3 defenses with no sparring.
What?
Yeah, exactly, bro. Robin Reed, I think a fighter called Rick Thornberry, and I think I had 10 minutes out of the ring one time. I remember sitting with Frank Warren, my promoter, and he said, Joe, you have to retire, you're going to fight? And I said, well, yeah, but I'm injured all the time. So I could hit the bag, but I couldn't hyperextend. So it's when I snapped that out, I was in pain. I was in cortisones, I had this elbow injury. And I went to a training camp in London for 6 days, which is the first time I sparred.
I think that's also what's really hard to gauge is like, when would you say something is enough? Like especially getting out the military, I have a bunch of injuries from the top of my shoulders to the bottom of my feet. It's like, when is enough? Because you see it all the time. Fighters getting injured and coming back after a while. It's like the fire being there is you need to take is a break too long? And oh my gosh, that's tough. You hear it all the time though.
And at first, man, my timing was out, but then everything started to come together. I took a few days rusty of having the moving target, and I was fighting a fighter called Omar Shika. Omar Shika. Yeah. And Omar Shika just came off a win against Glenn Johnson. Glenn Johnson was a good fighter, as you know. And so I thought he was a live fighter, This guy has come to win, So I went to training camp there and then could spar again. Finally, after a couple of years of not being at my best, I put on a good performance. I stopped him in 5 rounds and he was like, yes, man, I'm back. It's great, man. And That was good fun. But no, that's it. I trained at home, as you see these hills. Like, I was very lucky because we had 3 world champions in this gym at one time. Myself, Enzo Martinelli, cruiserweight. We had Nathan Cleverly.
They train here.
They train here. My father trained Gavin Reese,
Wow,
who
I
won
know
the
all
world
them
title.
guys.
Yeah, man, they all trained in this one gym here, man.
Wow.
It was a beautiful time. So my dad training us. I spar with Enzo. I spar with Nathan.
Really?
And we'd all spar together. But I never had heavy sparring in the last 5 years, 6 years because of my hands. So I had that big, like 22-ounce pillow
Yeah, you
gloves
guys
on,
to hit the
big
mitts with the big
padding.
ones too.
Yeah,
I saw a video.
because of my hands, you know. So it'd all be like big, decent sparring, but no, just maybe speed. I spar with littler guys for my reflexes, so I mean nice and fast. And I sort of adapted my style over the years because of my hand trouble,
So you definitely feel like you would have had more knockouts if you had no hand injuries, no elbow injuries.
Yeah, 100%.
No doubt about it. So what is that
So
you
I'm
couldn't
knocking
punch?
them
It's just
boys
that I
out.
can't
No,
punch with my
I couldn't.
hands.
Yeah. Listen, early
That's
on,
also
I
something
remember
that you don't want to like.
being the amateurs knocking.
That's also something I feel like a lot of fighters don't even want to project or even talk about. Is like, yeah, I have all these injuries. Like Mayweather has broken his hands multiple times, and I don't think he ever announced it, if I could remember right. But that's where he had to switch the style up because of his hands, from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather, and it was just because I remember that when he retired, he's retired like 50 times, but I know that had to be for like recovery and stuff like that, because there was no way that he just wanted to stop. It had to specifically be for like injury recovery, like crazy, man. That's
light heavyweights when I was weighing about 10 stone, 12 stone, man. Like, and then I used to load up the left hand, and then nobody knocks Eubank down if you can't punch. Like, Eubank was known for a concrete chin, man. He fought the biggest punches, man. Like, Nigel Benn couldn't hit him down in 2 fights. Nigel Benn could punch. I couldn't load up anymore. I had to adapt my style. So in the gym, I just use speed. So I use combination punches rather than loading up. So I could never do what I used to do and look for that left hand over the top because my hand would go. And that is done, So it'd always be more straight lines and more speed. I couldn't come over the top of the left hand anymore. So that's why I sort of adapted my style to more speed, and I had the fitness.
Made the adjustment.
And the fitness was there because I had a great engine, so I could keep that speed going for 12 rounds.
That engine is key, man. People don't realize that. Like that's a major weapon in a sport when you can, wear a guy down and he's getting tired and you're like, brother, I'm good. Middle rounds, I'm good. Or I know I'm gonna catch my second win.
Yeah, exactly.
So, just under 2 years after you beat Jeff Lacey, you get the Mikkel Kessler fight. That was a fun fight for me to watch, man. It was high level. It was a lot of punches, a lot of action. Walk me through that fight with Mikkel Kessler.
Yeah, so after the Lacey fight, I'll be honest with you, I was coming to 33, I had a couple of defenses, and I wanted to unify the titles, At the time, I was undefeated in like 44 fights, or 43 fights, and I was thinking to myself, man, when am I going to retire? Like, I started to cut corners. I was enjoying life, And then it comes, probably like yourself, it comes to a time you think, do you know what? I could retire undefeated, man. 10 years of world champion, but I wanted to fight the best at the time. And at the time, I think it was WBC and WBA champion was Mikkel. Myself, I was the IBF and WBO Ring Magazine champion, so it was a fight to put together. I had to really push for that fight.
Yeah, tell me about that, because I was going to ask you about that. How hard was it to make that fight?
It was hard to make. I remember speaking with my pro fighter. I said, I don't want to know any of the fighter. I want to fight Kessler. I think that is it. I want to fight Kessler. Oh, you might have to go to Denmark. I said, I'll go to Denmark. But he, luckily for me, made the fight in Cardiff. And I remember, I knew it was going to be a tough fight. He was undefeated at the time, and I think he was like 41-0. What I remember is, fighting in front of 50,000 young fans, against the fight. I'm thinking, and I knew at that fight that would be my last fight at super middleweight. I mean, I really struggled to make the weight. I mean, I lost 36 pounds for that fight. I was
In camp?
36 pounds, yeah, about 15 weeks before the fight. Yeah, that's my weight. I was
So normally you would lose about 15 pounds the week of, 10 days out?
Yeah, no, I'd lose 10 pounds the day before. I would be.
Come on, bro.
Yeah. So the
10 pounds the day before?
Oh my gosh. Yo, if you have, oh my gosh. I lost 21 pounds 2-day tournament. For a 2-day tournament. It's funny because I was weeks before I was losing the weight the right way, and then I had this chronic itch to just eat just everything in my. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. 6 days out, I'm like, damn, I gotta get it like now. And I was kind of slowly losing it, and then I kind of gained it back. I was able to drop a couple pounds, but within like it was really a day and a half. But 2 days, I lost 19 pounds as an amateur. Like, it's insane. I had to go down to 165 for a 2-day tournament. I was like, I have no clue how I'm gonna hold on to this. I was the most chiseled. That was the first time I ever had an 8-pack, and the last time I ever had an 8-pack. Yeah, it was insane. I won. Luckily, there was literally nobody else in my weight class besides the person that I was fighting that day, or he could fight me the next day. He did not want to fight me the next day. I was so blessed. I was like, good, because I ate a fat pizza, not thinking of anything else besides eating that pizza and eating food, because I didn't have anything besides maybe a fruit cup and nothing but ice water as the most to eat within like 2.5 days. Yeah, I didn't eat anything for a whole 48 hours for sure. Yeah. It was insane. Nah, it was straight liquid.
Or?
Yeah, so
How?
I mean,
That's
man, just
crazy,
not
bro.
eating,
And
dehydration, training with sweatsuits.
I would never.
Joe, come on, man.
Yeah, I did.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
Back in them
Sauna
days-
too? The week of?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'd get in the sauna only the last pound. If I couldn't lose it, I mean, I'm Macy, I'm dehydrated. There's no, I can't speak. And then I'd only make the weight just as I come off this out of there. So it's jump on the scales. Damn, he made the weight. But what I was shocked with when I fought Kessler, I think I'm a big super middleweight. I remember waiting there, looking at this guy, thinking, damn, he fucking.
Yeah.
I remember the gym makes me looking at the size of Kessler. He's a big guy, but you know what I used to do? I looked at his legs. Thought, my legs are bigger than his legs, man.
Yeah, you did have big legs. You had big legs.
stronger legs,
And
but-
calves too.
Yeah.
You had a good
Yeah, thanks, man. But looking at fight night, I remember that was a tough fight because
I just only.
I was a few
I only think
injuries.
of Manny Pacquiao's leg. When everybody talks about boxers' legs, the only person that I can think about is Manny Pacquiao's legs. His are like freaking horse legs, bro. People don't know that he did Muay Thai, but Manny Pacquiao, he the truth, bro. He's the voice of reason. Him and Andre Ward are like their own respective like voice of reason when it comes to that. But when we're talking about legs in boxing, Pacquiao, bro. Pacquiao has some horse legs, bro.
He's going into the fight, but there's a lot of. Kessler was different to Lacey. Like, with Mikael, I made the mistake of getting too excited. I was rushing him, and he was a good counter puncher, man. He caught me, and I ain't gonna lie, man. In the 4th round, he hit me with 2 uppercuts. I had a good chin, man. He buzzed me. I'm like, whoa, he hit me hit hard. First 4 rounds, man. But this is where adapting comes in, as you know, man. I had to adapt, and then I knew I had to sort of just bide my time, use feints, use my boxing, and then I started using my jab. I started moving away, and
He doesn't adapt well. He's kind of got one speed, in and out, and he can get his combinations off if you're there.
Yeah.
He's not stepping around.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a plan B.
Yeah. And that's what you have to have, as you know. That's right.
You got to have as many as you need to have.
Exactly. You need the plan B and the plan C. So plan A wasn't working, and so I had a plan B, and I was using my boxing skills, moving to my right and counting him over the top, and I could feel myself winning. He was getting frustrated. I hit him with a good body shot, and I think the 7th really held on. The feeling is a bit frustrating, and then
He don't like it to the body.
yeah,
He don't like it to
Dude,
the body.
I tell a lot of my clients and a lot of my students this: if you're not able, 2 things. If your fundamentals aren't solid, if they're not concrete, they'll falter later on, because the fundamentals is your technique, and your technique is what you rely on when you need it the most. Secondly, if you're not able to adjust on the fly, you're gonna get ate up by somebody that can. or somebody that their game plan is better than your game plan. You have to be able to adjust on the fly. When you see something self-correct, it's a skill set a lot of people don't have. They're talking about the highest level. He had one gear. Guess what, Andre Ward, my man's right here. They're talking, Joe Calzaghe, they're talking about switching gears, changing, and there's a lot of people in the top of the top that are still not able to adjust or switch gears. Crazy, bro. Like, you need those two things to be super solid.
He grabbed on, and I was like trying to pull him off, but you know what? He like a tough fight. You know, like I said, I felt like after 8 rounds, you keep use my boxing, and it was great. You know, I know. To me, it's like undisputed title. I know. Okay, I was IBF champion.
Could be ego and pride too.
I was IBF champion, but they had the belt back because of politics. It was a number 1 contender. So I was IBF champion, so I had all them belts. So to me, wherever it was at that time. So I made that decision after that fight that I'm never going to fight in super middleweight. I've been 10 years of world champion. I've got all the belts. There's 2 things missing for me before I wanted to retire. I knew this was the end for me. And like the injuries, my kids, you know what I mean? And like legacy was everything to me, you know. And I always pray to God, you know, like thank God for everything I've done. You know, I wouldn't believe that if I could do this, you know what I mean, be a champion. So and possibly retire undefeated. So it was a natural thing for me to go to the States and fight. And
had you ever been over there? You never fought over there?
I never fought there. No, I boxed in Denmark. I boxed in Germany, where I had to fight the mandatory ones. And I always wanted to come to America. And the thing is like, as you know, it's not just yourself. You know, when you're coming through, your promoter dictates. And the fighters that were champions don't want to fight, and it's just a frustration. But I was in a position now where I wanted to fight against Hopkins. Hopkins was making the big shout now. He was like coming up some great wins. He was a Ring Magazine champion. So that was a natural fight, but it was,
how hard was it to make that fight?
Well, that's the thing. How hard was it to make that fight? I remember speaking to promoter. He mentioned the fight called Clinton Woods. You know, no disrespect. I love Clinton Woods, but I'm like, I want to fight Hopkins. He said to me, Hopkins is not going to come to the UK. I said, it doesn't matter. I'll go to America. So what I did, I bought my own ticket. This was a week after the Kessler fight. Ricky Hatton was boxing against Mayweather. So basically what I did, I paid my own flight. We had cheap seats at the back. And I remember the main reason was to go over and for me personally, bumping up to Hopkins, you know? So that's what happened. I remember speaking with HBO, I think it was Coco.
HBO.
And she said, he said, Coco, she's lovely, right? She said, Hopkins in the press room. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So I said, Enzo McAnally was with me. And then that's it, man. We went to the press room and the fight was made there. If I didn't go to the state, that fight not be made. Because I skipped everything else, the promotion.
That's actually really prolific. If you know the fight game outside of just the fight game, the political realm of it, he's mentioned multiple times it's hard to make XYZ fight and make this happen. Like, sometimes you got to do some skip the line type stuff. He paid a whole ticket, flew out, did the things, and made it known that we fighting. That's something serious. Look, if you believe in yourself, go 110 and then some. Go outside the realms of the average man's possibilities. Step into the 1%ers and then do something extravagant and in your way, in your character, in your heart, that you believe that, you know, you can get it done. But do it well.
Man to man.
You made that happen.
He come over. I went over. He made the comment, never gonna let
so
my God beat me.
Let's get into that. So he made the infamous comment, I'll never let a white boy beat me. When he said that, what are you thinking?
Well, what can I say back? What can I say back, bro?
How did you feel, though?
I was a bit sort of taken aback, shocked, but also I went into like Ivan Drago. If you fight me, you will lose. If you fight me, I don't know what was it, but if you fight me, like I said, and it was just I was pretty excited because I felt with that comment, and I saw at the time I remember ringing Frank Warren and said that he's made his comment.
You thinking business?
I thought the fight's made.
You're not taking it personal. You're thinking business.
I'm not taking it personal.
I got Hopkins' attention now.
Yeah.
Now I got the American press's attention.
Yes, and I think everybody's attention after that comment. So I'm sort of glad he made that comment, because that caused a lot of, what he said, and that made the fight was made. So I didn't.
B-Hop's a strategist too. He said that on purpose.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He's like,
That's
y'all watching? All right, listen to this.
marketing.
I thought that. Yeah, I'd be careful with my words, but
Think about Rolly Romero.
And what can I say?
Rolly Romero he talked his way to the top. I mean, obviously you have to have something, but he talked his way to the top. Rolly Romero is not supposed to be where he's at, but he's where he's supposed to be at, if you know what I mean.
It was a dream for me to go and fight in Vegas.
I'm sorry for pausing, but you don't have to be good to do great things. Just do it.
As a young kid, man, and when I was a young kid watching when I was a little 10-year-old, 11-year-old watching, like, my favorite fighters were Leonard, Hagler, Tommy Earns, Duran.
And your fans came over.
They're amazing. Like, no fans like a British fan, so you probably agree, man. Ricky Hatton started the ball rolling, and then for me, that struggled early doors to sell seats. Boxing's hard from Wales, right? They're all rugby fans, and win, lose or draw, they always watch rugby, so it was tough. So when I beat Eubank, many years was tough to sell, to get a big fight. So finally, man, like, wow, right at the end, I'm getting the big ones. I got thousands of Brits, not just Welsh, English, Scottish, Irish, coming to watch me fight, to feel like I'm the home fighter. So it was amazing. I remember the weigh-in. There was only a couple of thousand people at the weigh-in, man. I mean, like, 5 years before, I wouldn't have fight this many people at my fights.
Man.
So it was great. It was great there. The names, it was an incredible experience.
I don't need the number, but were you happy with the money? You felt like you got a fair deal, or you felt, because Hopkins is very, very shrewd in business. You feel like you got a fair deal?
I was happy with the money. To me, I was happy to fight in America. I could have tried to stay at home and fight in Wales. I think that squashed everybody's opinion of me that say he never wanted to leave UK. No, it just couldn't. The opportunity, So to me, I wanted the experience of fighting in Vegas. I wanted to do that. I wanted to beat the best fighter that was there. And Hopkins was the Ring magazine, one of the best pound for pound at that time in the world. And I was willing to take that opportunity. And I had 2 injuries going into that fight. I had a rib injury that Kessler hit me right in the sternum. And I really struggled with that through training camp. Also the hand as well. So I had an injection there, and I had an injection there before I got in the ring. And the fight was a messy fight. As you know, I got caught square in the first round. Flash knockdown, wasn't hurt.
What were you thinking when you went down in the first round?
I was like, oh, what the hell, man? I just rushed him. I rushed him, but Hopkins fought the right fight. He's so clever. It's hard to fight a guy that doesn't want to fight, who's so clever. When you fight in Germany, he's not a journeyman. This guy done his homework, not to come forward. He tried to nullify my work rate. And then when I was inside, I couldn't really work. And I was too excited,
Is he physically strong?
He's quite strong. I wouldn't say,
Crafty, though.
He's just crafty. He was crafty. But after 6 or 7, 8 rounds, my work rate, even though it was messy, I was the one that was trying to work. And he started to feign low blows. And I got him, man. He doesn't want to, So, and it's a messy fight. Sometimes you go win ugly. It's not one of their fights like a Lacey where, everything goes well. But that's what champions do. You got to find a way out to win. And
did B-Hop give you your respect after the fight?
Do you know what? Directly after, no.
Of course not.
Oh yeah, I remember he was saying he felt he won, right?
Yeah, he said he felt he won, and he wasn't at the press conference after the fight. But I've had the opportunity. I met him. We sat ringside together a few years after the fight in Vegas. I think it was Abjuda against. I'm not sure, but it was a fight. And to be honest, it was great, man. We had a good chat. He showed full respect. We had a good, conversation between us. And he's like, "Come on, Joe, you're looking good. Let's have another fight." And then he goes, and I sort of shut him up. I went 60-40 me, and he goes, "Are we gonna negotiate?"
Yeah, he's never gonna go for that.
Yeah, And then that was the end. But we had nice words, and it was respect both ways. And now in hindsight,
I think that's also a big thing that I think the general public realizes, that there's a real respect level amongst fighters. Even if you don't like the person, you have respect enough that they're willing to step in the cage, step in the ring, on the mat with you, and hash it out. You don't have to be friends or whatever, but there's still a reverence of the other person being able to get it in and actually like bleed blood with you. That's different. That's different, and you can build strong bonds like that. I've built great relationships with people I would have probably never if it wasn't for us throwing hands. So that's cool. I love the fight community. It's amazing.
He won the world title like 5 years after I beat him, or 4 or 5 years after I beat him, and he had some good wins like against Antonio Tarver and what he did to Kelly Pavlik, you know. So it's a great.
It's a good win. It's a second to the last fight before you retire. But after that fight, are you and Dad saying how that may be it, or do you know you got one more left in you?
I'll be honest with you. After winning against Hopkins at the time, though, once light heavyweight, I was starting to cut corners. You know, I think, you know, I was...
What do you mean when you say cut corners? What were you
cutting
doing?
corners, man. You know what I mean? Like, I was maybe drinking a little bit too much.
Even during camp?
No, not during camp.
But just outside?
One night at my time, because I was getting paid more money, you know. I was having, like, bigger gaps in between fights. So I was, like, trying to enjoy life. What I thought at the time was enjoy life, you know? And, you know, maybe, you know, going on nice holidays, eating... going up in weight, but it wasn't just that. To me, it was my injuries, and I'll be honest with you, my sons were getting older, and I never really was one for letting my kids when they were really young watch me box, because something could happen in the ring, and I didn't feel that's just my personal opinion. I was right. So when I fought against Hopkins and I went down flash knockdown, you know, being down in 27 years of my life, I never got dropped in sparring. I never got dropped as an amateur in 120 fights. I mean, Byron Mitchell was the first fighter to drop me. I stopped him in the same round. I was going through a tough time in 2004, and I think it's Kabari Slim. I went down. So against Hopkins, you know, I thought to myself, this is it for me, you know. I thought...
You thought that was it?
I thought it was it for me. I thought one more fight. I said to Dad, I'm going to fight one more fight. And
how did he feel, though? Was he feeling the same way?
I'll be honest with you, in hindsight, I think me retiring was harder on Dad than it was for me. You know, I think because I never really took into it how my retirement would impact my dad at the time. It was all about me, but that journey was with my father. So we were a team, so everything, I never thought that he'd miss as much as he did. And he did, man, you know what I mean? But I never really took that in. But there's a fine line between going on too far and retiring undefeated, which is very rare, as you know. So, you know what I mean? It's something that I really valued, that I've been champion for these years. I fought the best, you know. You got to listen to yourself. I had my faith in God, and I always prayed, and then you got the devil and the God. You think, you bet you can make this much now. You know, you got this fame, you got this. And I thought, you know what? I'm quite humble, man. I stay in this place. I lived here most of all my life, as you see this area. And I just thought, to me, there's one fight missing. And Roy Jones came up to me. I spoke to Roy Jones after the fight with Hopkins, and we just spoke. You know, when Roy.
So Roy approached you?
Yeah,
about the fight.
We started chatting.
Were you even thinking possibly Roy?
Yeah, well, to be honest, you know, I was thinking one more fight, and then I just try to think back now. Roy's, you know, defense at the time in light heavyweights. I'm not sure who was around at the time. There was no really big names. Hopkins was the biggest #1, you know, and then Roy at the time was still a good fighter. And yeah, so we spoke about it, and Madison Square Garden, and you know, why not? You fight in Vegas, then you fight Madison Square Garden, Mecca boxing, man. You know?
2 Meccas.
Yeah,
to go out.
Exactly, you know, and I was enjoying it, and obviously, you know, I spoke to Dad, said this was it. Whether Dad believed me or not, I'm not sure, because a lot of people say they retire, but did they stay retired? That's the difference. A lot of fighters do retire, but they don't stay retired. So, to me, when I trained for that fight, I was in great shape. You know, like I said, when the cutting corners thing is like, I started losing the hunger a bit. You know, I was on listening. You see, the fitness, I was always there, but my dad always said something to me as a kid. And it always stuck with me. He said, always train like a challenger. You know? That's what fighters get to be, is when you cut corners. But I want to train like a challenger. To me, it was, I knew that was it. I'd done everything I wanted to do. Okay, I'm going to fight for fame, I'm going to fight for money, but that's not who I am. To me, at the time, if I fight in Roy Jones and Madison Square Garden, that ticked all the boxes for me. And I can be great. Yeah, because you can make more money, of course. I was 46-0, and people said, why didn't you try to get 50-0? That's just my number, because I was, Rocky Marciano. I remember speaking to Manny Stewart, and he said, I remember chatting with him before the fight with HBO press room before the fight with Hopkins. I mean, with Roy Jones, I said, man, I think this is going to be my last fight. He went, this is going to be the last fight? I said, yeah, I'm not going to get 50 or 50. He said, how many world title fights you had? I said, this would be my 21 and 22. He said, Rocky Marciano only had like 6-7 world title fights. Just a number, He said, if you retire now, man, he says, people won't appreciate you now, but in years to come, it's going to be harder to do what you did, especially fighting from Wales in UK. And I find that happening as you go along. It's not that hard, as you know, to be a world champion, fight the highest level and fight the best you can fight. Regardless of the number, to retire and also stay retired is a big deal, and not get
It's a handful of people you could probably count on one hand. Maybe 6 or 7 if you really think about it that actually did that in the history of the sport.
2 in this gym, brother.
Come on, bro.
Blessed, man.
So when you went into that fight, first round knockdown again. What is it with this first round knockdown, Joe?
No, man, these slippery boots I was wearing.
Man, come on, man. I said, man, it happened again.
Yes, man. Is that somebody telling you something, But that was a forearm, right? And this is what I was gonna say earlier on. It's like been knocked 4 times in my entire life, and then in my last 2 fights, I go down in the first round. If that's not awake, is that something? Is somebody telling you something? Is the Lord telling you something?
Going back to the injury thing, like, how do you really know that enough is enough, bro? No lie, I was just like, I'm about to get back into fighting. I don't care. Let's go. Kid you not. It was probably like, I was at an MMA gym. We're working on wrestling and everything like that. I was working with another guy that was prior military as well. Or I think it was either way. Bigger individual. I'm at the time sitting at like 210. About what I am right now. He's like 230, 235. About 6'4". Doing this wrestling technique. He slings me how he's supposed to, but he's so big. And his foot stepped on the outside of my foot. We weren't wearing shoes, clearly, MMA gym. My toe runs into the back of his heel hard. Like, I am howling, bro. Howling. Cussing up a storm. Long story short, I thought my toe was broken. Turns out it was fractured. Long story short, from that, I was just like, I'm not sure if this is a sign, but it seems like a sign enough to not, if anything, continue doing this. But I don't know. I've had many injuries that are life-changing experiences. Like, you gotta pick your battles. I don't know. Yeah.
And that one hurt though, because I got hit with the forearm, and I went down, I got up, I recovered quick, because I, a good chin, and recovery. It's not about going down, it's how you recover as well, right? And from the second round onwards, I enjoyed the fight, but I knew before. I remember going to Madison Square Garden in the day. I was looking around. I had an emotional experience, man, where I was looking around thinking, wow, Dad, man, like, where we've come from. We're in Madison Square Garden, we're in this place, and potentially this could be the last fight. And except for the first round, I enjoyed,
I remember that
enjoyed
fight,
myself. And you know what? And it's like I dropped my hands. I didn't intend on doing that. People say, why are you doing this? And all these, I don't even know. But I think it was me expressing myself, me just enjoying myself. And I remember in the fight saying, Joe, thank God, man, like, last 3 rounds, last 2 rounds. I was saying in my head, this is the last round. Just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I was saying to myself, and this is it. And then it was like, wow. And I just remember looking up and like, thank God. Just think, wow, man, it was a tingle, sort of surreal moment for me. And And that was it. And even though I didn't announce it after the fight, I announced it a few months later.
6 months later.
Yeah, 6
Why did it
months.
take 6 months for you to make
because
that decision?
I had like a manager and this and that, and he was telling me not to announce it. Yeah,
But you knew already, though.
I knew that was it. After that fight, that was it for me. I knew that was it, and no matter what was going to happen, I was just content, you know, on that fight. And then after that, you know, people were saying, Joe, you know, get a lot of money. Joe, a couple more fights, you get an easy fight there. There's no such thing as an easy fight. You got to me, that was.
You're putting yourself in a line of fire.
I'm blessed.
You can't half step it.
Not just to
they could be a
do what I
bump, for
did,
real.
but also
You get put on the canvas,
the man
for real.
that sort of enabled me to do it. My father in the corner. So to me, that was it. It's like you can't put a price. To me, you can't put a price on that. You know what I mean? To finish off the way I did, and yeah, very thankful.
It took 6 months to announce your retirement. Like, what's the relationship with you and Pops now about the retirement? Like, is he's accepting it, or he seems to be struggling with it before you announced it?
Yeah, he's like, you know, I think he was quite sad. You know what I mean? I think I obviously accept it, and he's, you know, he wanted me to do what I have to do, and he knew, you know, he could see that I wanted
boy's
out.
sad,
And we had this
man.
conversation
It's
off and on, like this is it for me now. And whether he believed me is another story. But obviously, I announced my retirement at the time. We still had an active boxing gym. You know, we still had fighters in the gym. So I know that. But it was different when I retired. You know, the atmosphere was different. It was just like a completely different. I think my dad's sort of losing love for it as well. I think because we didn't have. I wasn't in the gym, you know. We had that father-son bond, you know what I mean, that went on, and yeah, all things come to an end, and yeah, that was it.
How did you feel when you finally announced it and it was public?
It's a difficult one because even when I announced it, in my heart, I'd already retired, you know. So I knew when I fought against Jones in Madison Square Garden, I knew that was it. Just announcing it, okay, then he telling everybody retired. So it's hard to say really. What I remember that on the fight with Roy Jones is when I retired. So even when I said about like I didn't suddenly think, oh, I'm going to announce my retirement. That was just the public now, but people close to me, my father, people, my friends, my family knew that was it for me. You know.
It's interesting you say that about your dad because you know I have a little bit of guilt for my coach, Virgil, you know, is my godfather. And, you know, when I retired, I told him right before I did it. I didn't want him to try to talk me out of it, and I didn't want anything to go public, so I literally told him the night before.
Yeah.
You know, I look back since the retirement, and the gym is different. I was his main guy, you know, and I know he's a tough man, so he won't show it, but I feel a little bit guilty about that too, you know, because things changed for him when I retired too. It's just not the same. So I can relate to what you're saying, man, but it's tough because we also have to look out for ourselves. You know, we could have won another 2, 3, 4, 5, who knows what would have happened. Yeah. And now maybe you have a quality of life now that could have been much better, but now maybe you're dealing with some issues and stuff because you stuck around for the wrong reasons. So
that's what I'm talking
it's a tough call, man. It's a very, very tough call. I say this a lot that
I hate that.
I wish retirement on everybody, but I wish retirement on nobody.
Yeah.
Because it is like I want you to
You can
be
retire
able to
good.
go on your own
retire
terms,
bad.
but it's hard, man. It's not as
never
easy
fight
as
pro. I've
people
always
think it
wanted
is.
to, man.
As a fighter,
No, of course not. It's what I've done, you know, from the age of 8. That's where I felt I was, and it's to me when I retired like 37. Even though I won all the titles and retired on my own terms, not boxing retired me. It was still tough, you know. For me, you know, I missed that, you know, euphoria, that buzz, that adrenaline, get up in the morning, that relationship with my dad, you know, winning, you know, and feeling that self-worth, you know, and I probably lost my identity for a bit because I'm the fighter, you know, what do you do next, you know, and I used to do a bit of commentary, even try a bit of acting, and that didn't work out too good for me, man. And you just get lost and you get just dragged into different things in life, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's, nobody prepares you for what happens in sport, especially with boxing. I don't think we get much help.
we get no help.
We like, after boxing, what do you do next? You know, like, do something else you love.
What?
I just exactly like, okay, I'll try this. I'll try
What did
that,
I say
but
at the beginning of this video? I said, fighters, blood sport. I'm going to talk boxing because that's what we're on. That's the topic that we're on. Boxing is one of the most loneliest sports in the world. And aside from that, like, you give your everything to it. Everything. You embody, you are a boxer. That's all you do, and that's all you are. Money, everything goes to it, right? But that's why it's like when boxers retire, whether good or bad, leave the sport, however, it's like there's always something that has to supplement it. And that's why you see a lot of fighters, a lot of boxers get into like drug use and partying or business and something else. Mine was motorcycles and all that kind of stuff, like trying to almost chase or regain that thrill that you get in a fight that you cannot find anywhere else. Crazy, bro.
I've dedicated my whole life
It
to
is
this
a
sport,
drug.
and then it can be a struggle, and it was for a little bit,
How have you made the adjustment? Like, one thing I respected about you, even more than your boxing skill, was that drive you had. You not only had a motor, like cardiovascular wise, but like you had a drive. Like, I'm not afraid. I'm gonna keep coming. Like, I respect that because I'm very similar. But that drive doesn't turn off necessarily when you retire. So how have you stayed retired, and how have you changed the mission from boxing to maybe something else?
Yeah, it was a tough transition. I went to live in London after I retired. I'd done a few TV things, and I got probably dragged into the sort of other side of things in boxing. I mean, outside of boxing, and yeah, it was tough, man. Probably partying a bit too much, and got a bit lost
What I say?
for a little while. It was tough. Over the years, man, like, to me, it was easy to stay retired. I mean, like, my hands, for instance, are bad. I got bad hands. My body is breaking down. I struggle with a bit of arthritis now. My hands, even if I hit the bag, they ache. If it's cold, I'm like, oh, my knees, my back. It's 27 years smashing their body. It's hard from a young age and training. Yeah, you pay for it later on. I'm thankful, but it hurts. So people say, "We're coming back." I'm 53. Like, I'm 53 in a couple of weeks, and it's like there's other things you realize after a while. There are other things in life, and what matters to me, my legacy, now to be a good dad, be a good father. I got a 30-year-old Joe Jr., little Connors in Australia, beautiful boys. And I have another 2-year-old little Enzo, which is amazing. And I'm also a granddad for the first time, which is amazing. So yeah, it's life is great, man. Life is great now. It's a whirlwind after I retired. Adapting can take a while. But, I'm just thank God for everything I've achieved, everything I've done. Being able to have, although my dad's not with me, I know he's still in here, and I know that he's still looking down at my mum, and being able to have that journey with him in the corner was amazing. And yeah, I'm just a more chilled out guy now. It's
Chill guy.
sobriety in my life, which is nearly a couple of years now. So that's
Staying strong on that?
yeah, massively, man.
That's awesome,
Yeah. Which is been off and on, man. It's been a struggle at times. And yeah, that's a massive thing to me, and being able to be present and being able to enjoy my family, enjoy life, and yeah.
Man, brother, more life to you, man. I appreciate you sharing that, and we got to have more conversations like this as athletes, as fighters, because people are struggling, man. They just don't talk about it.
I know.
So to be able to talk to somebody or sit across from somebody who really understands, man, it's a cool conversation, man. I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you very much, brother.
Man, bro, thank you, man. This has been big for me. Oh, yo, I gotta get into this. One last question.
Go on.
One last question. Joe Calzaghe, Andre Ward, in our primes. So you feel like you beat me. I feel like I beat you. But walk me through a fight. Why do you feel like your style would have gave me problems? Talk to me.
Okay.
Talk to me. Give me the truth, man. I'm here.
I'm a southpaw. I got a good chin. I'm just awkward fucking fight, man. I give everybody a nightmare, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't have appreciated all the work rate.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to deal with, man. Because it's hard to deal with that.
I tell you what, bro. Let's just say it'd be a draw. We both win, yeah.
Hey, man. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Hey, man. That's a wrap. Joe Calzaghe. We out of here, man. We took it international. We'll see you guys next time.
Let's go.
Well, you gonna do it update?
Man, dog, Art of Ward, fire. All the smoke, fire. Dog. I'm gonna be doing more of these for sure. Let me know in the comments like what you guys want to see next. I got you. I love talking about sports. I love talking about fighting. Fighting is my ish, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.